Music? I mean, they could still technically hear you, but the music is on.
Baby girl, how do I look in my dude?
Oh, cooldown's over, yeah?
Yeah, it's definitely over. Been over for a minute. Did you tweet? Did you tweet? Frost is live, by the way.
Frost is live?
Yeah, they can't see you, but they can hear you.
There's this rumor about Tesla. I'm trying to find what is like conspiracy hashtag like a secret and not like too harsh to say. I can't find anything.
And that's the one that you landed on.
Yes.
I mean, it's hard to find a family-friendly conspiracy.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Santa Claus.
I'm not gonna lie.
Real.
I fell asleep during the show today. I had big nap.
Luckily, we have 2 days to talk about.
Good. Thanks for the carry on today. As I worked the show. Okay, let me know when you're ready.
What's your channel? I'm Froskurinn.
We can go whenever, Frosco.
Oh, whenever?
Oh, what are those
We need to
lo-fi
start.
vibes?
Oh.
That's sick.
Okay, yeah, you can start going in.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Worlds After Dark. We took a brief hiatus as traffic was utter trash yesterday. And now we have 2 days of games to talk about. And it's really good because today's games were kind of booty. So we can focus mostly on yesterday's games. I'm Drakos, joined by Frost, as always. Our special guest for today is none other than Mr. Jacob Mebdi, a.k.a. YamatoCannon, who will be joining me on the analyst desk tomorrow as well. Or I'll be joining you is probably the way to say it, since you're the resident expert.
You're a natural dude. You should give yourself some credit.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
Like, I think
that.
there's a skill with like choosing, because it's very limited, the analyst desk, and you have a skill to choose the right words in those moments, right? And I think that transfers super well.
Thank you.
Did you guys see my
Hopefully-
Telestrator today?
I did.
What'd
I
you
did.
think? Be honest.
What, you mean the one where the telestrator didn't work?
Yeah, I was told it wasn't gonna work as we went live.
Technology.
Yeah, it's a classic. Oh yeah, I was gonna try to pitch a telestrator for tomorrow for you to do Yamato, so we could have Yamato versus Technology round 2. But I couldn't. Like, there's like no significant clips from Group C. All of those games are like either over at like level 1 or nothing going on. And I figured we've broken down enough level 1s.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with level 1s, but
Well, shit. Let's talk about today. Sad days for the West, kind of. We lost Rogue. We lost Team Liquid. Some would say that Suning took Team Liquid out of the tournament. Some would say that Team Liquid took Team Liquid out of the tournament.
I think
But
it was Machi that took Team Liquid out of the tournament.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I'm a big believer that G2 and sent a Callista bot lane, because I really like to boil it down to something simple that the fans at home can keep up with. You know, sent a Callista bot lane, took TL out of the tournament. That's my theory.
Yeah.
You guys got to cast your minds back to yesterday. How do we feel, one, about that entire crazy day of games, but two, also kind of the Team Liquid miracle run all the way back up? Were you guys believers? Did you believe in like the TL kicking
No.
Suning out?
No,
You're supposed to...
not really. Like, it was, even the game that they won was such a steal. Like, I think a lot of best of ones is a story of, can you recreate it? And that game, I don't think it's something that you can recreate unless like the enemy is like, let's run it back. Let's look in Jace, Graves, and Twisted Fate. And that's not going to happen. So I was, in any tiebreak scenario, I would go for Suning, because I felt like Suning showed, even in the game against G2, that they were better than everyone in that group by a wide margin.
Yeah, Frost, do you agree? I can't remember what your stance was. You also felt like Suning were just clearly the best team in the group, right? It wasn't a matter of, G2 on a different day at a different time, but just Suning were a higher caliber, yeah?
Yeah, but the thing is that Suning and G2, like, people will say that the Suning versus G2 game was like the best game of Worlds so far, and I really hope that those people got a reality check when they watched JDG versus Damwon, even when both those teams trolled draft on separate occasions. I just feel like Damwon and JDG are on completely different levels than what we saw from G2 and Suning, and I am very concerned. Like, obviously I hope that G2 do well, and I think that G2 do better the longer in the tournament that they go, and I think that's kind of my primary takeaway for Group A in general is that, once TL got slapped upside the head and they learned some lessons, they changed up draft, they changed up playstyle, and they started to do better. So, I don't know, maybe given time, they could have continued to do better. Again, we always talk about this, opportunities, access to scrims, learning, information. They're just at a disadvantage when they come into a tournament. But right now, it is a very big game of catch-up. Suning is very much not on the same level as TES and JDG. They are very much gapped by the other two teams, and if G2 is really struggling with Suning, I got some bad news for Europe.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the doom and gloom train right now. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I believe Fnatic's gonna make it out tomorrow, but this might be the year where we get both of our teams eliminated in quarterfinals.
I think it would be really big if one of our teams made top 4, but I don't expect it.
Which feels so weird as the region that has made back-to-back world finals, and in 2019, like, absolute confidence in G2, even maybe a little bit of belief that, G2 could win the whole thing up until you saw those FPX early games. So, fuck. I mean, like, why? Like, Yamato, are you also on the doom and gloom train? Are you also like, we're just outclassed right now by the giants of the LPL and maybe Day 1 too?
I wouldn't call it doom and gloom because I am ruthlessly pragmatic when it comes to this. I don't mind LCK and LPL being good. I feel like individually, they've always been pound for pound better, even in last year's. And I think it was just a question of time when teams like G2 and Fnatic, I think they are heavy outliers in what EU can present. I think when G2's roster is going to be dissolved whenever something changes, I think we're going to look back at this roster back in 2019 and look at, wow, this is the best player in each position being in one team at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very, very rare. And coming into this year, I was always worried that just because I was in Korea, that I was like viewing it through the lens of scrimming them and just scrimming the LPL teams too, that that I was just being biased. But I had this notion that Europe was very, very far behind on what was the meta. Like, Nidalee and Set was something that was played even in week 1, and Nidalee was very active. Lilia came in right off the gate, played, Ashe as well. In terms of the meta, I felt like LCK was ahead, and individually, I always felt like the LCK and the LPL were better. And now I'm looking at Europe and what is the true strength. Usually it was innovation. It was the idea of being ahead and, bringing something to the table that was exciting and unique. And I think that has been lost because now in the context of G2, what do they have that is better than any other team at this tournament? Last year, I could easily say, oh, they are very strong in mid to late game. Some of the decisions they make, you won't see any other team make that. You would have their drafting as a big, significant edge. Now I'm like, oof, they have some good performers. Mickey is good, Caps is good, Wunder is good, and the other two are a bit inconsistent, can develop as the tournament goes with the experience, but the same can be said about maybe 5 other teams in this tournament.
Yeah, I feel like the secret sauce of G2 being the trendsetter, of being the meta masterminds, is definitely like that ship has sailed.
Yeah.
And it feels so bad to come into because like up until I wanted to believe domestically that we had the right take on the meta. You know what I mean? Like, I really wanted to believe that, like, we were right and the farming junglers were crap. Because you hear behind the scenes, like, oh, yeah, maybe it's good, but we don't make it work. Like, we feel like, Volibear is better. We feel like Set is better. Like, we feel like we're just getting more out of these champions. And I was like, all right, it's not us who's wrong. It's all everyone else. Fuck the LPL. Just that they fight all the time, And, like, the cold, hard reality as we watch Yankos play, like, farming junglers for the first time in 2.5 years, and like in the final weeks of the season is yeah, it's a cold, harsh reality.
The reality is that our junglers aren't good enough to play the champions that are strong in the meta right now. Like, don't get me wrong, inspired, self-made Yankos, they're solid junglers. They're good, possibly the best junglers that Europe has ever seen in a very long time. But it is a very different animal compared to a Kanavi, a Karsa, a Canyon. It's not even fair. Like, we do not have. When was the last time you watched a Europe jungler and you're like, wow, damn, that Nidalee was good? Whereas when you fucking see Peanut play Nidalee, and he's like the worst jungler for LPL this year, or at least of the teams that they sent to Worlds.
I think just to add to that, I think the idea of playing farm junglers really reshapes how you have to approach the game as a team. And I've seen hints of G2 trying to do that, but the timing of the sacrifices they make have been very off. For example, yesterday, Caps was heavily criticized for that game, but he is playing a situation where he has Syndra with an AP jungler, which is not good in the first place, and he sacrifices lane completely by checking the Raptors and then checking the Golems. And then Akali got the Mercury base, and he never recovered. And these are mistakes that you can't make. You need to be very, very precise with this. And I feel bad for G2 because last year the big issue was that they couldn't attack the 2v2 mid of FPX. They came into this year and they're like, okay, we're going to be very good at playing 2v2 mid. But now coming into the World Championship, the reality check is that the 2v2 mid functions completely different from what they've practiced the entire year. And I think this really, really sets them behind because LEC as a whole tried to force this, like Seth Volibear was played in LCK and LPL too. I don't think it was like all farming meta right off the bat. I think Selfmade functions super well because he was trying to play the farm jungler all along. Like he was playing Graves and nobody else was doing it.
Fnatic was trying so fucking, they literally like Fnatic were trying so fucking hard to force that shit. They had a Soraka bot lane with Graves as the sole carry. Like Fnatic were fucking over-indexing and trying to play this carry jungle shit. So they like of all of our teams, they've got the most experience on it. So it's not surprising to see them to do pretty well and to adjust to it. But I think it's a really solid point, Yamato, and I think we're gonna keep bringing it up because it's been basically 2 years where G2 have been able to just be like, we have strong individual laners, we have strong lanes, Perks Mickey last year with the Zyra Khan, and it's kind of just like they don't have to think about anything except for where enemy jungler is and like what they need from Jankos. And so Jankos is the one who had to like bear the burden of figuring out the jungle role, and everyone else just needed to figure out like when they needed to respect enemy jungle, and that was pretty much it. And now it's like an infinitely more complicated puzzle because it's like, okay, does it make sense for us to go and check this jungle camp to see if it's okay? When does it make sense for Jankos to sacrifice himself to come down over here? And now it's like an entire team, like jungling is a team game now. Yeah. And if your jungler like isn't ready for that, and it's not that Jankos isn't ready for that, but if your team isn't ready for that, then you're kind of like, you're shit out of luck. Because it feels like the one time where League of Legends changes completely, I think, in terms of how you play and how you prioritize your early game, as opposed to like anything else. Like top lane meta changes, who cares? You go gank top. You bounce it out.
Oh, did Cookie get stuck in the room?
Oh, got stuck in the room. The shorts revealed to the world. I was wondering when it was going to happen.
Sorry.
It's all good.
It's a fire outfit.
Yeah, that's the absolute working from home banger right there. Party on the top, shorts on the bottom.
It is the mullet of outfits.
I respect it. But yeah, I think this is just unlucky, I think, for Europe.
Unlucky.
I mean, it is, right? Like you can just RNG into shit patches for your team. It's just that like I didn't think that there would be a shit patch for G2. You know what I mean? I was like, they'll carry through Wonder, or they'll carry through, Caps, or they'll carry through Perks, like whatever the meta demands, they can do it. And then it never occurred to me that like the problem would be when they have to carry through Jankos, who historically was like, has obviously been a proficient jungler across so many different metas. But
I don't think it's just about carrying through Jankos, but like what you said and what I really want to underline, like what Yamato started and what you finished, is it's like the strategy right now is to set up for your jungler and to play for your jungler. And historically, that's like been kind of the primary difference between the LPL and the LCK, actually, is that the LCK would like play for their junglers and like use their laners to facilitate the jungle, and then use the jungle matchup and the vision matchup to win games. And LPL had such incredibly talented laners that their junglers would just throw their bodies at the lane and get Rookie and the Shy ahead like multiple kills. But now the meta is shifted where these farming, I don't know if you call them farming junglers, these junglers that you set up for are really potent and powerful, and it's really hard to play side lane in this meta, and there's just not a lot of different options. So I think in the past where G2 were really strong is when the game was like really open and you could do multiple things. You could play the side lanes because G2 still have incredible flanks, incredible team fight setup. Their decision making, even when they're like ridiculously far behind in games, like against the TL, where you see it for a brief second if everything aligns that maybe they can win a game, but the versatility to play out in this current meta is gone. You have to play this style, and I think that's what really kills G2 is you no longer get to use the flexibility that they once had.
Is there?
Also, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask. Like, you can definitely chime in on that, but the thing that I think I'd love to have you follow up on afterwards is like, Frost, you're like this is what you have to play. Now there obviously has been some attempts to play other stuff. Lee Sin is currently winless, so those attempts maybe not looking good, no matter how good those early game looks. But like champs like Volibear, we saw Clid on the Gragas. We maybe see more Gragas from Clid tomorrow. So is there any room for interpretation here in the jungle meta? And if so, like what is the cost of giving up the Graves or the Nidalees or the Lilias or whatever, Kindreds, I guess, if Peanut's playing, of the jungle? Like, what is the trade-off if you want to break the meta or stay away from these farming junglers?
I feel like the problem with these farming junglers and the reason why we don't see so much Evelyn from either the LCK teams and the LPL teams is because they just view it in the light of what is the most powerful in the early game. Nidalee, Lilia, and Graves all followed the same pattern that they are very, very, they have a lot of options in the way they approach the game. It requires a lot of precision in terms of how you execute. And the issue is the other so-called early game junglers are just weaker early. Like playing Volibear against Graves is almost like a suicide note that you're writing for yourself. It's very, very difficult if you have that one chance to flash gank, and if that doesn't connect and Graves is 10 CS ahead, you're going to be in trouble. I think the same thing for Hecarim. Hecarim doesn't really fit this mold because he's too weak early. A lot of the Hecarim success that happened in Europe was often due to like a top laner just dying to Hecarim, and then he was accelerated because he had a kill. The same thing with Evelyn. Like if we look back at the Rogue Fnatic series, it was like, oh, Rogue 2v2 with Sejuani Rekt on top. They dove and died, and Evelyn was 2-0, and then he had AP jungle item and snowballed. I think with the other three, they're just too strong early to avoid. But I could definitely see a world where a team is like, fuck it, let's just ban all three, and then the game looks a bit different for us. Because that could be a way that you approach it if you are backed up against the wall.
I would love to see a Graves Nidalee Lilia ban. First big Volibear jungle.
Oh my god. That's the dream. Can we please just I actually miss, so I respect the meta a lot, right? But I think that I sincerely miss the Gragases and the Lee Sins of old. And Volibear, while trash after the nerfs, I would still welcome a Volibear jungle. Trash in jungle, to be clear, not trash in top lane. Still very good there. I think overall it's just the meta feels like once you get ahead, once you get your jungler ahead or you set up your jungle for success, these good junglers just win you the game, right?
But
as long as your laners are competent, like you would just win the game.
It still takes a lot of precision to do that. Like, I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely what happens, but I think that I just want to put it into frame that that's not an easy thing to do. Like, you still have to set up the dominoes and you still have to push them over correctly and like have it all chained together. And I think that's what's really beautiful to watch about Damwon is the precision at which they do that. When you give them, if you sack lane phase or sack jungle matchup against Damwon, they just destroy you. It is brutal to watch, and you don't even realize how hard you're getting destroyed because you don't see that switch flip on until later on.
I mean, then my question, I guess, to follow up on that is like, so then what do you equate then with like the TL level 1 victories where they're able to pretty successfully shut down teams too? Is that a testament to TL's preparation and TL's success as a team?
I think it's also the group that that TL were in.
Like, because to me, I would be inclined to agree with you, right? But then I see that like, TL have found success the same way, and I wouldn't put TL on the same pedestal as I would put Damwon and JDG in terms of like dismantling their opponent when they have this kind of jungle lead. But still, TL with Broxah were able to make it happen.
I'm just not trying to dumpster on TL. I'm just saying that, what TL did was very impressive in their last 3 games. I think probably the best games they showed at Worlds. But they were also against a very different caliber of opponent when they got to just punch down.
Yeah, totally fair.
I think when I looked at TL, like I thought Broxa was good when his team is winning. I think he like pressured the right camps, used the fact that he had mid prio, just not so creative in terms of creating that prio. So like that's why we saw so many dead TL games where nothing just happened. Like they were just waiting, and waiting doesn't really win you games. Maybe in some regions. And then the level ones were good. I thought it was super good. I think whenever Team Liquid were ahead, they looked more precise than G2 did. I think Core JJ, honestly, one of the best supports in the whole tournament. Like he did some serious 1v9s from the support role. And I think that's the story of the tournament for me. Just junglers and supports deciding almost everything in terms of how the game flows. And then laners lane, and then if they lane well, it shows. If they don't, if it's even, then it's like kind of whatever. The supers and the junglers decide everything. And Code JJ for Team Liquid, Jesus. The Pantheon game and the Seg game, that's like support goals for everyone, I think.
Yo, the Pantheon game especially, that was disgusting. That change, like you can see now, like I checked the patch notes to make sure this champion had been nerfed after the Worlds patch. He has repeatedly, and like God bless, like at least the balanced team figured it. Please also take away the fact that he gets to start with a fucking empowered ability at level 1 for some reason, because this man is the king of level 1s. He walks into your jungle, he takes what he wants, and there's no fucking way you get anything back. And obviously, Core JJ making that happen was cool to see. One of the big things that we kind of talked about before, because Froskurinn, you have an interesting relationship with Team Liquid. You've been baited by the Siren song. You've been disappointed. You've been impressed. You've been everywhere. So I just want to know, like, with TL dropping out of the tournament, do you think that TL were, from what you've seen so far, LCS's best team?
Yes.
Do you want to elaborate a little bit?
I mean, yes. Team Liquid will be the LCS's best team. I do not think that the LCS is going to get any teams out of groups. I think that it's a shame that it took TL so long to pivot, but I think what came to fruition was a lot of what other analysts in the community had been talking about, which was LCS creates an environment similar to like what the LEC is experiencing, where certain things were not punished, particularly a lot of their matchup understanding. If you go and look at even TL, people are losing both sides of matchups. Especially comparatively to the LPL and the LCK, which is much more consistent. And in talking with the LCS coaches, they basically confirmed that people don't really understand how matchups work in terms of like, this is how this trade works, and this is the trade window, and on this back, the matchup actually now goes in your favor, which is why scaling was so prominent in the LCS, because if no one knows how a fucking matchup works, then everyone gets to scale. And then that's why you can suddenly think that blind picking Rakan and Twitch is good because you're never punished for it. And in play-ins, it looked amazing, because guess what? Those teams also don't understand matchups, and you weren't going to be punished for it. And then you walk into groups, and then suddenly people think differently and understand matchups better than you do. You pick Twitch Rakan blind and you get Dravened right in the head. So I think that will be the same story for good old TSM and FlyQuest. And it is just unfortunate. I think that pound for pound, talent-wise, Core JJ is the best support that LCS has by a huge margin. Support is so important. I think he had a great tournament, even in TL's games. It looked like utter shite. So I think TL is the best LCS team at Worlds.
Core JJ might be the best import ever. Western import ever, I should
real
say.
good.
Because I don't keep track of all the Korean players that go into the LPL. But Core JJ, like, that is insane value. Like, good on you, Steve. It might have taken a few people, but you got there. You found like the golden ticket right there, because Core JJ is a fucking monster. And Tactical played well too, but like when you're standing next to Core JJ, it's like you really got to try hard to look bad. So yeah, big shout out to Core JJ. Actually kind of sucks to see TL drop out like this, and especially sucks to hear you talk about a lot of the issues that NA is facing right now for Froskurinn, in the same way that you're talking about EU, and the fact that we're a little bit behind the meta, or that we have been a little bit behind the meta. And the thing that makes me sad is that, again, lulled into the sense of security in 2019, where G2 were kings of the world, they defined the meta, so LEC was playing the meta. And now that G2 are behind it all, it feels like if you're the number one team in a region, by any kind of margin as G2 have been for us, as other teams have been in other regions, as maybe Cloud9 was earlier in the season or earlier in the year, then you pretty much decide the meta because you scrim the best teams, you beat them with it, they're convinced it's the best thing, and that just is what it is. And it makes so much sense to me, but it also just boggles my mind and it makes me sad because all it takes is for the best team in any region to be good enough to play the wrong shit to pretty much I don't want to say tank the entire region because I don't want to put that on people, but like definitely like lead your region to believe wrong things or practice the wrong things for a long period of time.
I think sometimes there is what is underestimated is, I think the conversation in the LPL and the LCK for a lot of the organizations, discussion about how they win the World Championship is something that has been active since the genesis of like the esports. And now G2 try to do this 1-year plan when they're trying to like make sure that they are not burning out. But the plans look very, very different over in the LPL. Like, I don't think a top esports at any point were like, okay, we're going to relax and we're going to take it easy. We're going to chill. Like it is constant. Like it's constant. What is the right constant conflict for them? There is never a point of time where they rest. They went to the mid-season cup. That is not the time to rest. That is an opportunity to prove something. And throughout the year, I understand that it's, of course, you need to care about your well-being and your health, but the amount of effort and work that some of the LCK teams and the LPL teams put in is absolutely nuts. And at the same time, of course, you have some stories of some teams crash and burning. That is like almost the price that these regions are willing to pay. They are not willing to put themselves in a position where they work less hard than anyone else, regardless of what position they're in. We had the story of T1, right? T1 crashed and burned, and maybe that could be a story of working too hard. But then when everything connects and no one's really burning out and everything's working out for you in terms of how you put in the effort and energy, then you come into the World Championship with good form. Stars need to kind of align for you to be the best team at the World Championship. And I think when you are putting maximum effort in throughout the entire year, I think that almost increases your odds. Because now with G2 in mind, they took it easy in spring. They swapped around caps and perks. They thought summer, it's just going to be plug and play. It's going to come back to normal. And then things that you can't plan for happen. And there was a rough summer. I don't want to bring in like personal thing, but it was a rough summer for some of their players. They played with the sub, and that's I completely understand. But you can't predict these things. And then COVID happened as well. They had to quarantine 2 weeks. Like, how do you make a 1-year plan accurately based off of everything that happened in a year? And I think as a final point on this notion, like the work ethic that LCK teams put in and LPL teams is just completely unmatched over here and at the LEC from what I've seen so far.
There's a really good piece that if people haven't read it, they should. I believe it's called The Boy at Seaside, or The Boy Who Was Lost at Seaside, about Huang Feng, the AD carry.
You should link it, or here, I'll get it on WhatsApp web and I'll link it.
The AD carry for Suning. And like, not getting in like a pissing contest at all, but I'll never forget that I think it was a World's hype video or World's teaser video, and this isn't like Cloud9's fault at all, but this was like kind of a questionable editing decision. It had Going as an interview, and Going in his interview started crying, kind of talking about his history coming up, about how he basically ran away from home and he was going to the PC bongs and that was what he had, and this was like his dream, and he's sobbing on camera while he's saying this, and it immediately cuts to one of the Cloud9 members at the time being like, "We're really here for the fans." And I was like, oh no. Like, who's gonna run faster, the dude who's being chased by the lion or the dude who's here for the high fives? And like, of course, you have those really heart-wrenching stories for Western players. Like, I'm not saying that the hunger's not there, but I will say that it's a very different world, and Yamato's correct when it comes to like the discipline, the culture around it, the drive, that type of hunger.
Yeah, and so GBA, I believe, also made a video. I haven't watched the video, but I imagine it probably very closely follows this, what was an originally untranslated LPL article. But this dude, like, this is like, he's winning the Oscar, you know, for like sad stories. He comes from a broken home. He goes home to his computer and nothing else. You know, he's struggling to eat. Like, that computer in League of Legends is like all he has.
His story, he literally is left alone in a small room for 3 years with just his computer and basically going to school. And he talks about how he plays a game of League of Legends in the morning. He goes to school. On lunch, he plays 2 more games of League of Legends. He does his homework in class and immediately comes home and plays until basically he passes out and he does it all over again. And his like mentality is you know, I will learn from every single game. And he just had like this tiny little room and how that shaped him as a person for how he thinks about it. And you're like, we don't have a chance. Like, oh my God, of course this guy is going to push as hard as possible. This is, you know, like this is his outlet. That was his expression of creativity.
Yeah. And that's dark, right? Like, and I don't ever want to say to Europe, like, all right, guys, your childhoods were not messed up enough, right? Like, you had too many other things to do. You couldn't focus purely on League of Legends. You know, I think his story is one of triumph, but also even in spite of that tragedy, and I don't want that to be ultimately what it takes. But the sad thing is like, he's obviously the poster child for like dedication and determination. But Yamato, from what you're talking about, it's like, it's not. You don't need a tragic backstory in the LPL or the LCK in your experience to just have a better work ethic. It's kind of standard. It's kind of expected there. Do you feel like that's a product of? We always have this conversation about like the differences culturally, but also, do you feel like that's secondarily a product of the fact that there's just more players? There's more server population between the two countries.
I think it matters for sure, but there's so many cases of outliers. For example, there's this place called the Republic of Dagestan, which has like 3 million people, but the amount of UFC fighters they produce is insane. It's nuts. They just come out of that region. There's like an area where, like, there's a UFC champion, Khabib, and he's just smashing everyone. He's undefeated. And then there's like the rate for amount how many Nobel Prize winners coming out of Japan is also completely insane. Right? There's things that are embedded in the culture that matter. I think pointing to player base, of course, it makes a difference, but I don't think making it as an excuse. Like, I think it matters when all the other variables are covered for. Like, LPL have an easier time because they have a massive player base, they have the most money, and with time, like, they're still, for the longest time ever, Korea was winning worlds time and time again, right? Because they had everything behind it. They had the culture of how to approach the game, and what esports was in Korea was very, very different from what it was worldwide. They were ahead of the curve on that. Now everything is starting to land in China as well, and now they are catching up with the help of all of these resources. I still think, you know, I had the pleasure of working with a Tunisian team. So 5 Tunisian players, and these guys play on EOS with 200 ping, and they don't complain. They don't complain. They were high challenger. They were challenger master, and the only thing that they really wanted was they just wanted a PC to play on. They were asking around within teams. They just want an opportunity to play on a PC, and already that, you know, that shapes you as a person when you go through that controversy. And then also knowing from my background, growing up in an Arabic family, it's very, very strict. As an example, I had to go to school. I worked with my father, and then I was pretty much hiding in bed with my laptop because I had to go to bed, and I was hiding. That was how I was playing solo queue. I was playing on a 30 FPS school laptop, and then I didn't sleep, went to school, worked with my father, went home, hid in bed, and had the laptop. Like, I had burn marks on my thighs because I just wanted
Because of the fans.
I've been there.
because I wanted to, you know, become a pro player. Like, I loved League. That was what I imagined was my life. But if I didn't have good grades, I didn't work with my father, I would have nothing, you know? It just didn't work that way. At the time, I hated it. And I was like, I just want to do this. But now I look back at those times and I'm like, I'm so happy I went through this. Because now it's so easy for me to do what the Korean players did, or the Korean coaching staff over in the LCK. We worked 16 hours. and it feels good doing so. I think it builds character, and I understand all the negative sides that come with it. It's not healthy, and I know that there's this new movement, of course, coming into like the last maybe 20 years where everyone's talking about mental health, and this is also important.
Burnout.
And burnout. But if you want to be at the top of the top, you need to do the things that no one else wants to do, and that comes with risks. So many times there are sport players and athletes that are exercising their fucking ass off, and sometimes there is research that doesn't make a lot of sense too, when you can get injured and so forth. But sometimes these are risks that you need to take. I don't think we're at the point in time where someone can say you need to practice this amount of hours, this is the perfect amount of hours, and this is how you're going to nail it. They're just leaving no room for error in this case. You just practice 16 hours and you're not going to miss anything, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I think that you're right that it is like kind of, I think any upbringing is going to have its positives and its negatives,
Yeah.
Like we all carry some portion of our parents' baggage or whoever raised you's baggage, right? Like that's just in the inevitable way of raising people. But I do think that like one of the things that's really positive to me there is just like the appreciation of what you have and like really appreciating the little things. And I do think that I obviously can't speak for all Americans, right? I didn't grow up rich. I didn't grow up super poor either. And but I was surrounded by like people who were pretty wealthy. My mom parked us in like the shittiest apartment in like the richest neighborhood so I could go to good schools. She was smart like that. And as a result, I was surrounded by kids who got Xbox 360, Xbox, they got a PlayStation 2 when it came out. They had every fucking console imaginable. And that kind of rubbed off on me, and it meant that I didn't appreciate things as much until I had to start working for it when I was an adult. And I wonder like how many people in LCS have like a similar upbringing where they kind of have all these options, they have all these things to do, and so as a result, like none of it is as meaningful or as special or as important because they can do any of it, right? Because like if you're allowed to play any video games anytime you want, why would you be super dedicated to League of Legends? Like you'd really, really, really have to love the game, and how far is that going to take you when there's always something else just like waiting around the corner for you?
It's such an interesting conversation because on the flip side, because I agree with what you're saying, because on the flip side, you have another outlier in Denmark. Like there's so many great players coming out of Denmark. And
It's
I
also
know
like the Olympics, you know what I mean? Like countries that do really well in the Olympics on like average tend to have a lot of resources pumped into them. Like the USA is a really great example, and the assumption is because you have everything. You've got the facility, you have the training, you have the coach, you have the nutrition program, you have maybe the steroids, but it's like it's all of it together. And so like I agree with Yamato. It's this idea of the two extremes. If you have everything set up for you, if you have, a country like Denmark, which is beautiful and has such like a high level of education, high level of social welfare and social protections, the internet infrastructure is really great, then of course all of the barriers to entry that would normally gate people from a game like League of Legends, where you have to have a good, a decent enough computer, you usually have to have a space, a decent enough internet connection, free time to do so, then suddenly you're also able to just practice way more.
Yeah, that's like with Denmark, like every Danish player, most Danish players that I've worked with, like their family is so supportive. Like we see Cap's dad, he's there always, man. He's showing up for every tournament. Maybe he figured out a way to get to Shanghai as well somehow. I don't know. He maybe called up. He's always there. Wunder's family always there, and that's also a way where like, you are supported in everything you do. Like my father fucking hates gaming. Well, didn't want me to do anything with it. It was like a waste of life, everything, And then when I showed up with my first paycheck, then he was a bit convinced. But what he tells my relatives on his side is he works on TV. Very good.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's a classic. I think my mom only recently started, not recently, probably once I got this job with Riot, she started telling people what I do. But otherwise, I remember coming downstairs. I like gotten the job at Riot, and there's like this 3-month period between I got hired and I got my visa to come work in Germany, and I'm living at home at the time because like, what am I gonna get a job? Any week I could leave, so I can't get another job at that point. So I'm like, doing the child thing and like sponging off your parents as you do. And I'd like come downstairs and I'd like watch VODs on the television. She's like, okay, look, I get that this is like your thing or whatever, and that you're going to Germany. Like, but please get this shit off the TV. Like, what the fuck are you doing? She said it much nicer than that, but for comedic effect, I'm going to deliver it the way that I interpreted it. But like that was the thing, and I'm sure that like Frosco, I'm sure you have. Did your mom even believe what you did? Did you even want to explain to your mom what you did when you got started on this?
It was really, it's obviously like my mom and I don't have the greatest relationship. I remember when Worlds was in North America, I think it was 2016 in San Francisco. Was it 2016?
Yeah. 2016 was North America.
2016,
my mom and I we very rarely talk. Like the relationship's getting better now, but I invited her to come watch me for the first time and what I did, because we've always like butt heads, and I was really excited. It was the day that EDG were playing. I remember that. And I was wanting to set everything up for my mom. I was going to be on broadcast on the back half, so she would actually be able, like, I could meet her, take her to the games, get her all settled in. I like asked my producer, I was like, can I take her, behind stage and show her everything? I took her out to breakfast. I got her my EDG jacket and I zipped it up, and I found a bunch of LPL fans that were like so excited to see EDG gear to like sit her with. I was like, this will be a great experience. And then I would go perform and she'll finally get it. She'll understand what I do and why it's cool. She fucking left.
Oh shit.
God. Oh, you win sometimes. You win. Like at least Yamato's dad doesn't say he's gonna show up when he's not gonna show up. You know what I mean? Like he might be lying to the rest of the family, but he's not pretending around Yamato. My mom now is like super supportive, and she wants to. Oh fuck, Frost, you always win, dude. You win. You win, and it's hard.
It's getting better now, but it has been a very rough. It's been a rough time for a couple of those years.
I see you, chat. It's fair. Some people don't want to watch EDG games, and if she was a fan and that was a reason, it probably would have been fine, chat.
She's like, I'm
not
done
everyone
with
wants to watch
shit.
them. Chat. She's like,
Takes
they're gonna
off.
lose to a Brazilian team today. I feel it. I'm sorry. I can't be here for this. Like that wasn't what happened. Oh no.
Yeah, but my mom was
time.
like a very traditional like sports fan. Like it's funny because she wanted to be a sports commentator, so you'd think that she would like totally understand. It's exactly what she wanted to be, but for a video game instead. But she was like very adamant that it's nothing compared to American football. That is the premier.
Super heterosexual dudes tackling each other.
Why do you have to be such a militant lesbian? Oh, Mom, please.
That's a good example, right?
It hurts.
Like to just tie it into the conversation about risk. Sorry, I had this lightning bolt moment.
No, you're fine. Take it.
Get it out.
Save me from my trauma.
College kids, like the amount of CTE they go through, like there's so much fucking brain damage.
Oh,
in the
yeah.
NFL, which is nuts, man. The risks they put themselves through, and is that healthy? No fucking way, man. But in order to win, you better fucking head first tackle, right? I don't know anything about American football, but I see.
No, that's what you're doing. You're using your car crash.
There are rules. Yeah, it's car crash after car. It's fucking two heavy-ass dudes, full force. It's like, Jesus Christ. And that's your role. That's your position. You're Malphite in this. You just Malphite and you ult.
American football is just basically all for one, but everyone's Malphite.
It's Earth, all for one Earth Malphite. But instead of being unstoppable, you do damage to yourself when you ult. So it's
and some of these motherfuckers are building straight AP, and some of these motherfuckers are coming out full tank.
Yeah, I also wanted to clarify. Sorry, Drakos.
No, go ahead, clarify.
I mentioned before that the Japanese have a lot of like Nobel Prize winners on average. There's a specific university in Japan that has a lot of Nobel Prize winners. A friend told me this, so it might not be true.
That's not
I'm
true.
believing it anyway.
I'm
believing it anyway.
Chat, if you can link an article over whoever has the most Nobel Peace Prizes, that'd be great. Because
like
you saying it's not true and his friend saying it's true are like the same amount of credibility right now.
But Twitch chat told me this.
All right. Someone just linked the.
Someone did try to link it.
Per capita. Ah, I see.
Did you Google?
The Faroe Islands who are winning because they have the lowest population.
What's their population?
Switzerland's looking good. Sweden. Who has the most overall? The United States. Woo! Laureates per 10 million. What's sorted by laureates per 10 million?
We went on a really dark tangent, though,
Yeah,
just to
fair,
really put a bow
fair
on this
land.
one. Obviously, everyone's going to have very different upbringings, and there was a really good comment in Twitch chat that said you don't have to go through torture or despair to make it to the top, and everyone
No.
has their own journey and pathway here, but I do think the culture conversation is important when we are examining the larger macro, conversation and discussion about LPL, LCK, LEC, and LCS results. And in my personal experience, as well as I think from what Yamato's saying, in working with LCK or LPL players and NA players, because I had a team that had both LPL and North American players on it, there was just a very
oh my God.
different work ethic. I had an LCK player too. I had a Korean, Chinese, and North American players all in the same squad. There's just a very, very different work ethic when it came to the game.
Wow. Yeah, I mean it's wildly different, and I'm definitely not encouraging people. If you're like, I want my child to be a league prodigy, just raise.
It's also mental health
Don't-
awareness
no
month, so like take care of yourself.
Yeah, take care of yourself for sure. Chat. Mental. What is it? Awareness. What is the
Mental
word?
health awareness
Mindfulness.
month.
Oh no, but mindfulness is really important. Think about how you're feeling. Think about why you feel that way. Acknowledge it.
That's not mindfulness.
Pay attention to yourself. That is mindfulness. What? Mindfulness is just being aware.
Well,
of
I
how
mean,
you feel.
it's like an actual process, though.
Well, no, mindfulness is just a term. Then there are processes underneath that. Do we need to get our therapists in the chat to 1v1?
I will 1v1 you right now.
All right, we've gone 2 after dark. Chat. Anyway, don't shame people for going to therapy. Therapy's giga dope. Back on the subject of League of Legends, as far away as it seems, might be some struggles for NA and potentially for EU in the future.
Speaking of mindfulness,
Speaking of mindfulness,
North American fans are like, how am I feeling right now? I seem to be having
how am I
some
feeling
negative
right now?
thoughts about North America, and you just
Yes.
let the negative thoughts go by you. You observe them, you observe what they may mean, but you don't hold on to them, because that just creates inner turmoil, and anxiety and depression can brew inside. You just let them wash over you.
what you feel. When you think about it and you go, I hate G2, North American fans, do you hate G2? Do you hate TL? Do you hate yourself? It's hard to know. Think about those feelings. Where are they coming from, people? Where are they coming from? Where is it?
Americans in therapy, Lomo. The country is giga divided and despise each other. Please lecture the rest of us. Excuse you, sir. I haven't lived in America for years.
Wait, also, what the hell part of checking with your mental health and well-being is us lecturing you?
Like, I think
Yeah,
you're the
fuck
person
you,
who needs to,
American.
like,
What do you
check
know? I'm
it.
fucking so happy. I'm sitting here watching your show, getting fucking apparently talked down to by you guys. I'm having a great time.
I'm literally in the German healthcare system, just, like, loving the self-care, as Europe, like, gives so much more vacation time. There's no economic anxiety that's hanging over me. I'm fucking loving life.
Living it. All right. Anyway, 100% back on League of Legends after today. The other team that sadly dropped out on the EU side is none other than Rogue. Rogue, I think we could most chalk it up to, in many cases, some of the skill checks that we saw coming through. But overall, I'm outside of the last game, which was kind of disappointing overall.
Well, can I go on a rant here?
Yeah, go on a rant, actually.
Okay, so here's my rant. So I saw some, because Vetti's made a tweet was basically like, I wouldn't change my predictions even after the results. I still think that Rogue is like the 3rd best team. Basically, people came out of the woodwork like, what the fuck, man? PSG has proven themselves. And here's the thing, guys. I think that after Rogue lost their chance at getting out of groups, they may have gotten a little bit silly and run it down. Now, that does not mean that PSG, who were in a similar situation, also did that. PSG played really well. They played probably their best games that they've ever played. Both of these things can be true at the exact same time. And when Rogue played PSG when it mattered, they beat PSG. When PSG played Rogue when it didn't matter, PSG beat Rogue. And you can say that, well, the victory that I saw from PSG was better than the victory that I saw from Rogue. But ultimately, I don't think you can conclusively say that PSG is better than Rogue based on these standings and results. Now, that also then means that I don't think that you can conclusively say that Rogue is better than PSG. I would say they are, but I don't think it's conclusive based on the results. So that's my rant. That's my little issue here. Both things can be true. PSG can be playing incredibly well, and Rogue could absolutely not give a fuck anymore.
PSG is better than JDG. That's That's the conclusion.
Exactly.
That
That
I
checks
drew from
out
your
by that
talk.
logic.
What we've learned is that consistency in performance is nothing. You win a single best of one, you're the better team, clearly, and the rest is just unlucky, frankly, that you couldn't just play that team over and over again and just continue to beat them into the ground. When we look at kind of is the world champion in the group that we saw today? 'Cause
High
we only
chance,
got
yeah.
high
Yeah.
chance.
I think it's damn one.
I think it's Damwon.
Yeah.
Oh fuck, Yamato, where you are? Is this the return to not Korean dominance? Is this the return to Korean winning titles?
I think we are going to have a very, very close final.
Oh, I would love a final that went to 5 games. That was hype.
For once, historically, finals are the shittiest series. For those who don't know, the semifinals are always giga bangers, and our finals are always so trash.
Yeah. So it's only been cool when like Genji. We had some cool finals, no? Like
There was the
Tigers
Rocks Tigers versus
SKT.
SKT. And that was the
2015.
only good one.
Samsung versus T1 went to 5 games twice. That was also pretty hype. I think we're gonna have a banger this year, though. I think it's gonna be interesting because, as weird as it seems, I think a worse, like a team that is worse in general, can win a best of 5. I feel like that's the element and the point we are in the game, because things can get very, very snowballing very, very fast. You make one misstep, you take 1 2v2 that's wrong, and then all of a sudden you are in a winning position. And I think we have a lot of teams that can take such a winning position all the way to goal. And
find
I
that-
see that in top esports and GGG and Damwon. But
That's a really
Damwon,
interesting take.
very, very precise. And I think also they draft the best. That's why I'm leaning towards them to be the winner.
Frost, you were about to say something?
No, I just think that that's a really interesting take, talking about like how quickly games can snowball out of control.
I think it lines up with what we've seen, though. No.
No, it's not that I disagree with it, but you take that into account into a best of 5, because normally you see best of 5, you're like, okay, clearly the better team is probably going to win here majority of the time. Well, that's why we play best of 5s. But I agree with the sentiment that you could actually get into a best of 5 where every game is snowballed so out of control because of the nature of the meta, and then does that make it a comparatively to other metas where games can get much slower and there's much more opportunity to kind of fight back? Does that mean that these best of 5s somehow mean less in determining the better team because of the nature of the meta? I'm not saying that I have an opinion on that one way or the other, but I do think that it's really interesting to think about comparatively to like a 45-minute team fight. Because then you can also make the argument that, like, if it comes into a 45-minute team fight and it's about fucking death timers, you're just flipping coins on who's going to win that final team fight.
Like I think it does show it pretty well, but like a good example of people being left with questions was the Genji DRX best of 5. That was, they had a big break, and those were some very one-sided games. Genji stomped, and then DRX stomped, and then the last game was DRX Silas 1v9ing. And that was also a best of 5 that left people thinking, who's really the better team here?
I think that was more about, like, which team had the stronger mental fortitude to sit through all of that bullshit. Because that, like, really drains on players.
Yeah, that series was a mess without the pauses, and when you add the pauses was probably a disaster. Like, I think we would probably never see the series that we saw again, even if you played it 10 more times back to back. I think you'd see something completely different every time. Like, you wouldn't see that exact series, just because I don't think that you can't really factor in all of the variables that are probably affecting both of those teams there. And I don't know, but I think that is a good example. Like, I think that there are going to be best of 5s that leave you with the question about who's the better team. And after Fnatic beat G2 in the best of 5 in our summer playoffs, right? I was still wondering who the better team was, even though Fnatic came out on top. And even in last summer, where we had the double back-to-back best of 5s, I was wondering after that first one who the actual better team was, because there are those coin flip moments, those clutch moments that you're talking about, Froskurinn. And then also that on top of that, when we add in all the factors of this world, where level 1s have decided so many freaking games, so many games. And no doubt the level ones are only going to get fucking crazier when we go into best of fives and teams go, okay, we can take a risk here. We can afford to drop a game by going for something especially crazy. You know, we can flip a game on a level one. Why not?
I just think that if level ones become like the staple of the meta where every single game is now going to be a level one, that then people will start taking account of that into drafting. And I wonder if that means that like you look at your opponent's draft and you just say to yourself, like, we both have strong level ones, and if I fuck up this execution, then I can throw a game, and then it ends up that we go back to 5 points and we no longer are splitting map.
God,
You know, if it like goes all the way around.
I can say from experience, this is something that is weighed in, but usually it comes later on in the season. Like you can create a strategy around being super strong level one. Like that's a common occurrence, I think, on the top end of any league.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that there are certain champions in the meta right now that are just ludicrously strong level one compared to their equivalent counterparts, right? Like Lily obviously feels very strong for taking jungle camps, but is very impractical in actual fights. Level one. Graves is very strong. Usually early on, you know, you pretty much free access to melee, hit people in melee range. Pantheon, as we were talking about Core JJ earlier, Bard. There's a lot of the support picks right now that are fucking nuts level one, actually, that are like almost 2 champions worth of either damage output or tankiness or whatever in the case of Set, Pantheon, and Bard. Like Bard level 1 is his strongest level relative to any other point and any other champion in the game because he basically has 2 friggin' spells. Of course, a little bit diminished by the fact that he's taking Guardian every game. Sad life for all the Bard players out there. But like, yeah, I think that this is something where I expect to see more teams invest and be willing to take the level 1, but I can't. Maybe there's a world where it is balanced out and it is closer and it is even and teams do just take the 5 point, but I don't know. Based on what you're saying, Jacob, and I think based on what we've seen, like one team will know that they have the stronger level 1, and it would not surprise me to see that team try to force as hard as they could to get that advantage every single time. Because I see people in the chat complaining like, oh, game over at level 1. They still have to follow through. They still have to close out from that level 1, to be clear. Like it's still skill intensive from that point, but the nature of jungle especially is that any lead is snowballed so drastically because it's like, wow, you took one camp slightly faster than the other guy. Well, you're level 2, and now you're taking that next camp slightly faster, and it's just exponential clear speed, especially with the AP growth or the AP jungle item on all of these champions. Especially on Lily is the perfect example of this, right? Because she gets more move speed the more levels she has that she puts in queue. She gets the additional clear multiplier from the fact that she gets the AP jungle item. So the second you're behind Lilia, she's clearing camps, 2 times faster than you. 1.5 times faster than you, and that number just keeps growing like that. And that just means that, yeah, that's why people are fighting for lane priority. That's why people are fighting so hard to get good matchups to set their jungler up for success. Because if you don't, you're gonna have yourself a fucking useless champion. Because yeah, Graves when he's behind just gets one tapped. Nidalee when she's behind just gets one tapped. When she's ahead, she controls the entire game. And I don't love this meta, but that just kind of is what it is.
Yeah. I think like level 1, like everyone says that they are coin flip, but if you are stronger level 1, they are no longer coin flip. And there's a case of like it's a bit of a poker game where it's like how far are you willing to extend it? Are you going to camp a bush? Do you predict it? There is an element of like rock paper scissors. But when you have a stronger level 1 than the enemy, that should bring you some guaranteed value if you choose to use it. I think a good example is the Team Liquid game. A good example is, of course, the game where Suning annihilated Team Liquid. That's also a great example of them being way stronger level 1 and dividing the map and then diving bottom through it. I think there are some clear examples where it needs to give you guaranteed value. So I don't think it's like, oh, coin flip, yeah, coin flip. It really is more to it than just that, than the average viewer might pay attention to. I have a coin right here, actually, funny enough.
Yeah, I saw you putting in your eye earlier. Is that what's going on? You're wearing it wearing it like a monocle.
Yeah, I have like this thing where
you're a super villain.
Yes, maybe.
Let's look ahead, I think, a little bit. Ultimately, like we talked about, there's 2 tournament favorites coming out of this group. Frosk, I'd love to hear, since you're not going to be on the AD tomorrow, I'd love to hear your thoughts on Group C specifically. who are your favorites? Who's making it out for sure? I think most people are expecting Fnatic Gen G. Have you restored faith in LGD? What do you expect? Because it's technically a really close group.
When
TSM at 03, everyone else at 2-1.
Amazing was talking about how he felt that LGD were becoming a team now, I was like, ooh, I don't know about that one. I still think LGD is just, it's because teams throw into them and they manage to catch really well. I still think that it's like Gen G and Fnatic, whatever order you want to put them in. I know that the LCK faithful really rate Gen G very highly. I think that personally, and I talked about this in Euphoria, I feel like we saw the high of Fnatic, like Fnatic in best form in their game against Gen G. You're like, yes, that is peak Fnatic right there. But I don't know if it goes much farther past that. I think that they don't have the same. Yamato likes to call it like depth, and I kind of agree with that sentiment where like I think like Nimbus is playing well. Selfmade obviously is very strong. Reckless and Hilly were popping off. Bwipo looks solid. Like that looks good. Whereas I don't know Gen G well enough to understand like their full depth. And so if you have a Gen G that still has more to push through, then I think that's a totally fine prediction to make that Gen G can unseat Fnatic again. But I expect this to be Fnatic and Gen G that get out.
Yamato, what's your read on the situation? Same thing?
Yeah, my read hasn't changed ever since. Like this was my prediction from the get-go. I think coming into this, they experienced Massive super much. Gen G and Fnatic have it. I think if LGD and TSM, let's pretend for the exercise that TSM would be 2-1. I think if they would be the type of team to drop a game, I don't think they would be like resilient enough to figure it out again. And I think Fnatic could be a team that they drop a game and are, good enough to make the right adjustments within the 2 hours that you have, or like coming into the next game. I think the game Gen G against Fnatic, I think that was a freebie. I think Gen G did a lot of things in that game that were proving to me that they are better. I think there was a situation after the bottom dive where the enemy had TP advantage, and the game should have been over. Like Ezreal was 20 CS to 40, he was 0-2. The game should have been in the coffin, it should have been fucking close at all. BDD manages to get prio, roams into top, forces Orianna TP, they go back into mid, go bottom, force another TP, and then they force a dive, and they get kills on people that are so far ahead in the game. And this was Fnatic giving a little opportunity to Gen G. And I think me and other, like for example, LS or whoever, I think see this in Gen G when we rate them so highly. I think the amount of control they can take through small opportunities is amazing. I think this draft just didn't allow them to come back because they had Nidalee Renekton. And I think this is Gen G's biggest issue. They realize that their mid and their bot, some of the best players in the world. I think they are going to destroy anyone in this group.
And oh, sorry, Yamato, go.
Just to finalize on Fnatic, I think I agree that was Fnatic's best form, and they showed a lot of good stuff. But this is like the Fnatic that I kind of expected, with the caveat that Hylissang is performing out of his mind. I think Hylissang is an absolute fucking monster.
And I think that this is also why LGD actually keep winning. I think that teams also give them like really disrespectful drafts. But in this idea of the praise that Yamato just gave for BDD and Ruler and like their individual gaps that they can create between players, LGD really are a skill gap sometimes between some of the competition in their group. That game against TSM, that was a big gap between some of those players. And that's the like people like, oh, I can't read LGD. They're such a weird team. I don't understand how they keep winning. Your players aren't good enough to punish them. You're losing to a solo queue team. There's no teamwork in LGD. There are very there are very solid individual pieces, and on the right composition, they can punish you for it. So you have to at least skill check them, and then be the better team. And if you lose to LGD, you're a bad team. They're if you don't beat LGD, you don't deserve to be at Worlds.
I love LGD because it's like, have you guys played Among Us with like a lobby without Discord?
No.
No. God, no.
They ping so much though.
It's pretty crazy. It gets pretty wild. But they have some champions that are the equivalent of calling a meeting, And it's like, that's where they get collected. Like whether it's the Ornn or the Bard Ultimate, that's where you see things kind of come together. They're calling a meeting. And they're all there. Okay, we go. And that's where you find team play. Yeah.
They run to Dragon,
Oh my God.
slam the emergency meeting button. Fucking
So
Peanut's
perfect,
running
dude.
out of his red buff. She's teleporting onto a ward. Kramer's in top lane, like, what?
So good. You got like Ornn versus Syndra. It's like, guys, their kill's not available yet, but if you give me 20 more seconds, the meeting will be available. We can call the Ornn horn and we can vote the Syndra out of the map and take the Baron, guys. It's like, really? Mano, that was fucking
My favorite
That
team
was,
fight was
like
when
the perfect way to describe it.
Kramer chased the Zoe away from the team fight while his team started to lose the rest of the
Oh
fight.
my God,
That was
playing-
that is the quintessential LGD moment. Like Kramer's fucking going this way, his team's going that way. The Ornn just like threw all of his abilities and missed everything. I'm like, oh my God, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. The worst part is, and this is the most fucked up part of this group, is that we can be completely wrong and that won't surprise me.
No.
They could just show up tomorrow and beat everyone. I mean, it's still the measuring stick. I still think your analysis is spot on, Froskurinn, but like, we don't. Maybe there's a different emergency meeting champion
the
that
thing
we
is,
haven't seen yet.
You have to respect LGD because their players are good enough. You cannot be disrespectful to that team.
Yeah, absolutely the case. I mean, obviously, like Fnatic, you know, had their own struggles against LGD, and I'm concerned a little bit into terms of how much each team has leveled up and kind of the mood coming into it, because people are like, Fnatic week 2, this is where they come online, and I was like, well, normally they're 0-3 and it's like a complete and total fucking miracle that they make it through. So now they're 2-1, and let me tell you, if it's a complete and total fucking miracle that they make it through, I'm not feeling great. It should not be a miracle at this point. I'm not waiting for a Fnatic miracle run. I need like just some good, clean performance. I don't need anything crazy. I don't need any heroic moments.
Fine to be happy with Fnatic. Like, if you're a Fnatic fan, this is probably like the most calm that you've ever been, because your group is an absolute fucking fiesta, and Fnatic actually have an identity. And like, your best player is probably one of the most important players in the current meta, and your jungler. So like, I actually think this is, or should be, the most calm that Fnatic fans have ever felt. They go to bed, they tuck themselves in. This feels real nice. Like, I'll wake up tomorrow and self-made will at least make sure that I drag out of groups, because if I didn't, I lost to LGD and TSM.
That's a fun exercise, thinking about Fnatic. Because I started thinking about 2015 Fnatic, Huni, Reignover. I think they slept better back then.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess. They slept better.
Well, what group? Wait, what group were Huni and Reignover in?
That was IG, Cloud9, AHQ.
Oh, that's a good group. Damn it.
That's a good ass group. I'm not gonna lie to you. That
I
might.
had it right here.
That was
Despite-
the Cacao
yeah.
Skarner game.
Yes, and where Mr. I will not mention his name revealed strategies on the end of this.
Oh my
my
god. That's my
God,
favorite.
man.
Oh, I'm pulling up that clip.
Oh no! Pull up the clip, Frosco.
No,
We
I
gotta
don't know
do
if we should bring it up. We're gonna cause problems. with
Oh
him
my
again,
god, it's so
That is-
funny though.
No. But sometimes people take clips. Like I found clips of us or like of myself translated to other languages with like
Oh yeah,
200K views, and it's like, what the fuck?
it happened to Ender
years
at was it at MSI last year or Worlds?
Oh, yeah, it happened. Yeah.
Ender had a this is a great story. Ender had like a joke skit, if you will, because it was like one of the VCS teams versus like one of the tournament favorites, and Ender had to like, he was like, I'll just make these ridiculous win conditions that were actually like true win conditions, but he was basically just like talking about all the things that would have to happen for the VCS to win, and it got translated, and then Ender received like a shit ton of death threats because a newspaper like basically reported it as absolute fact and was like, caster fired from broadcast show after disrespecting.
Oh,
and like, it's
wait.
kind of funny now, but it absolutely wrecked Ender's day. He got his whole Facebook blew up of people just being like, kill yourself, and he was like,
Vietnam
what the-
right there.
Verified. That's why he's not verified.
That's why he's not
Vietnam
verified.
doesn't use a lot of Twitter there. It's why he's probably banned from Facebook now. He's offended an entire nation. So perfect.
It was a
that's great, because
joke!
the bit at the end was he was getting, the producer's like, you need to get off stage now. That was the joke. He was like having someone in his ear say that. And so the fact that they then went and reported that as fact, that this guy got fired for making these comments. Oh my god.
Okay,
I
found
forgot
it.
about that completely. Holy shit.
This is, I love,
Are we watching stream?
the best part about it is just the different faces that everyone makes.
Think IG is
Oh no,
going
you
to
know
win,
I was behind
because,
the camera
I'm a
and I'm
good friend
holding my
of
head
IG's coach,
like I'm
and he
there.
told me
I'm
that
seeing
they have
this in
secret
person.
weapon.
I have some secret strategies.
I got a secret weapon.
That's the moment. And no, it's so good because Dash tries to save it, and then Zyrene tries.
Of IG's coach, and he told me that they have secret weapon.
Insider info, Tabe.
He
Dash
told
trying
me
to save it?
Kakao, maybe we're choosing Hecarim or Lee Sin jungling. And he said that if he really picks
Suddenly the panic is starting to set in. You can see it, and now he's like gingerly touching the desk. Zyrene's looking at Dash, making eye contact with him like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do?
that, we have to put strong attention to him. And he said they are going to pick Kalista and Cannon bot. And
Well, so now everybody listening is just gonna ban those out. But what if that's the plan? What if they ban those out? And then
And Zyrene's now like, I can save this. Throws himself in as he tries to logic reverse.
they really have other strategies. Tabe, you're throwing everybody. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
spoke
Wild card, draw 4, back to you.
Oh my god, that will go down in history.
You know,
That was-
I spoke to him right after this. I was like, Tabe, why did you do this? He was like, I wanted to show that China is strong. And I looked at his notes. And it just read like a prep. You know, it was a piece of paper that's like you bring on stage before a draft. That was the thing he was reading from. But I feel bad for him because people like
Oh, it was
online
brutal
tried
for
to figure
Tabe
out-
after that.
They tried to figure out where he lives. They like found the hotel we stayed at. Like it was an absolute mess. People were angry, man. And I remember there was like Messiah tweeted out on Weibo. I don't know what they do. He weebed Weibo. I don't know what it's called.
It's
Sorry.
Weibo.
He weebed out. He put the weeb vibes out there in the internet.
And he just said, he basically disowned him. He's like, yeah, you're not a part of China anymore. It's like, holy shit, Messiah did this? Man.
It was a fucking real brutal for Tabe.
Yeah. But he's back in good form now. He's
Yeah, he's
streaming.
coaching
That's why I didn't want to bring this up again. I was fucking
as a reminder.
related.
Wait, Frost, do you want to tell your Messiah story?
No, it's for another time.
Okay.
I'm actually really tired. I want to take a nap.
All right. Final moments here with all the IIAs being spammed in chat. Any last minute questions before we pass viewership on for the nightly raid?
Who are we raiding?
I don't know. Yamato, you get first dibs since you're here. Do
Yeah,
you wanna
Yamato, are you
immediately
gonna stream?
after this?
Yeah, I'm gonna do a
Turn
summary
your
of the
turn
day.
your stream on.
Okay. Where are you guys posting this? Can I steal it?
No,
Post
I'm
on my
taking
channel
it. I
so I
got,
don't
I
make
got
it.
YouTube.
Yeah, you can probably cross post.
Yeah, you can cross post actually.
Nice. This is
Just link
Google
my
Drive.
YouTube. I desperately need
Of
subscribers.
course. Give you a shout out. No problem.
I'll tell you guys my favorite story from China while Yamato gets his stream started up. When I first went to China, I went with a challenger team that we were training up called Roar. It was Chaox's team. And we were there for a couple of months scrimming against some of the LPL teams. We got to scrim against RNG and LGD and the likes of them. And we had a Chinese player as well as a Korean player. And we had an IE. And an IE in China, it kind of translates into like auntie, if you will. And it's essentially kind of like a nanny or a housekeeper. And is like just a very common thing in China to have an IE of the house. And she was really lovely. Oh my gosh, we like cried when we had to say goodbye. I loved that woman. And I was like helping her with the daily chores because I was like secondary coach and basically like acted as a manager as well in terms of like setting up scrims and feeding people and things like that. And she took me to a market, like a very traditional Shanghai market, because she would make us the most amazing Shanghainese food. It was delicious. And as we were walking along like this market, and you have like all the beautiful like ducks hanging up that you can like go and buy if you want to have like a duck, and like all these chickens, all these like different vegetables and delicious smelling things. We like walk past this one stall that has a little kiddie pool. and there's a bunch of turtles in the kiddie pool, and they're in little bags and little nets. And I'm like, oh, a pet shop. I really want to buy a turtle. That would be great. And she, like, obviously there was like a language barrier. And so she's like, oh, do you want the turtle? I was like, yeah, can we get a turtle? And I was like, oh no, I see. The turtle's not for petting. The turtle's for eating. And so I ate turtle soup.
All right, wait. All right, okay, wait. I've got an Asia story too. Asia's banging. This is mine. Mine is less terrible. Mine is more just awkward. So when I went to Taiwan the first time, I went with Achilles. We were casting the LMS finals.
Your Taiwan stories are so good.
Okay, so I get there before Achilles. I get there like way ahead of him actually because his flights are delayed. And Riot, I think, hired Twitch basically to produce an English broadcast, and Twitch hired someone else. But Twitch was like there. So Twitch sent people to take care of us. Coolest shit ever. Shout out to Twitch for this because we were totally like, neither of us have been to Asia before, so we were both fucking confused beyond all means. But someone like picked me up from the airport and they're like, well, you know, Seth's not going to be here for a while. Like, do you want to go get a massage? And I was like, sure. Like, why not? Like, let's go get a massage. Why not? I'm in for a fucking experience. Here's what I don't know at the time. It is very popular in Taiwan to have a blind person massage you. Like, this is a thing. This is like This is like art. And first off, great massage. But the process of getting there was a bit difficult because I speak no Mandarin. The man who wants to give me the massage speaks no English. And so we're a bit of a gap here. When I walk in, and my handler, whose name is Mona walks away. I'm like, all right, bye, Mona. I walk into this room, and he's like, keep in mind, I've never had a massage before. Like, I've never had like a people, but never like professional. You know what I mean? I've never been to a massage parlor before. And definitely never a blind man, and definitely never a blind man that I can't speak to. So Mona's like, yeah, just do it, you know, get ready. And then she walks out, and I'm a fucking awkward motherfucker, right? So I don't go, what does that mean? I'm just like, there. And so I figure out after trial and error and like broken English Google Translate communicating with this guy's daughter, who is not blind, that I need to lay on the table basically naked. Get on the table, butt naked, face down. At some point he needs to flip me over, but he has no way to communicate that. So I'm just looking at him. I'm like, what do you want from me, old blind man? What do you want from me? You have the hands of a god, but what do you want from me? Like, what do you want me to do? And he just sighs, like the deepest, most palpable sigh of all time, and just fucking flips me. And just from that point on, I do not have like, it's all, you know, it's just a great massage, but he is just like, at that point, he stopped asking me to do things. He just starts doing them. He like adjusts my arm. He like moves my back. And yeah, for that like 45-minute period, I wasn't sure if he had like lost his temper with me and if at any moment my life was going to end or if he was just giving me a great massage. But at the end of the day, it was a massage. So you know what? We take those.
Cool.
He was blind and he knew as he was flipping, he was like, this fucking white guy.
He's like, God damn it, I can feel it.
We had a massage therapist or a physiotherapist, and the only word he knew in English was sick. So he pointed at the body part, he said, sick. Sick. This, very sick. Then he just started pulling it or whatever the fuck he did. Usually my eyes were covered, and at one point, like the thing that covered my eyes kind of slipped. Then I looked up, and the man is pressing his knee into my fucking like my fucking
thigh area. Yeah.
I was like, Jesus. And then he looks at me in the eye. He's like, very sick. Okay.
Oh my god.
What a great massage.
When I started dating Josie, we got together in Shanghai, and Josie's like obsessed with massages, and she used to go every day at lunch to get a massage. I don't like being touched. I don't like people touching me. I've never had a massage before, but I really liked this girl, and so I was like, yeah, I'll totally come and get a massage with you as like a date or whatever. And we'd like sit, we get like our legs rubbed next to each other and like talk to each other. Oh my god. Me trying to like keep it cool and like flirt with this girl while some stranger is touching my leg and it's kind of painful and they start shaving dead skin off my feet. I'm like, oh god, it was awful. Worst date ever.
But I feel you. That's like the actual maximum extreme, because I have definitely gone to like bands I didn't like to try to impress people. I have gone to like, I went to like a spoken word jazz night one night to try to impress someone on the first date.
Wow, that's deep.
it was dedication.
Word jazz night.
It was like they played jazz in the background and people did spoken word. And there's a lot of snapping. You're not allowed to clap. You know how it goes. It was like mad pretentious. And it was like some people were kind of cool. And then some people were just like high out of their mind, out of control. And me, you know, I'm so deep into like, I want this person to like me territory that like this dude's up here spouting like environment, world, clashing,
Green.
you know, and she's like, wow, it's so deep. And I'm like, you know what? You're right. Like, this is so deep. Wow. So fucking profound. So at least you're in your situation, Frost. You weren't like selling your soul out completely. At least you paid for it in suffering instead of having to pretend to love like, oh my God, the most pretentious garbage I've ever heard in my life.
We met our first date was at a coffee shop and a bakery, and I got there like extra early because I have like social anxiety, so I needed to be there first so I could see her coming and not like have to play that game where like you have to figure out who you're actually meeting on the date and you're like making uncomfortable eye contact with random white people and you're like, yeah, no, not date. And like move to the next one. So I showed up like an hour and a half early. I was like 3 coffees deep, so I'm fucking up. And I have LPL later that day, so we had to meet in the morning. She comes, we have a date. It's great. We talk a lot. We're both really high up on caffeine. And then I hadn't eaten anything at all, and I just had all of this caffeine in my stomach. And I was like, I'm gonna go grab a croissant and then I'm gonna head off. It was really great. I'll message you. And then I walked the wrong way. I walked away from the croissant, and I was like, I can't go back. I can't like walk back across this one because what do you say? You'd be like, I messed up. I'm just here. So I just starved. I went and did that entire LPL show day on like 6 cups of coffee and nothing in my stomach.
Jesus Christ, what the fuck? You're such a bad adult sometimes.
I was awful.
All right,
I forgot the bread. Now I starve.
I don't want to take away a perfectly good opportunity for you to tell any. Do you have any stories that you want to share? Most ridiculous. You don't have to. You don't have to. Me and Frost have a habit of sharing stories we probably shouldn't on this show, so don't feel like you need to. It's definitely something we've opted into.
The problem is, like, you got me thinking in that sphere, and in that sphere, it's too wild. Like, it's just, it should never get out.
Too out of control. Guys,
Like,
when we get
you know my friends Eddie and Freddie.
After dark, oh my God, you can't
know
tell
Eddie
Eddie
and
and Freddie
Freddie.
stories. You can't tell Eddie and Freddie stories.
You can't tell Eddie and
You
Freddie.
can't tell Eddie and Freddie stories. That's just what it is.
Because Eddie and Freddie are just too fucking wild when it comes to crazy stories that you shouldn't tell. But I guess, and my dating is just like, I've only been together with Arena. I'm really lucky that I found her. We found each other in a solo queue game, and we won that game. That's my story.
Do you think if you had lost the game, that history might have been different?
No idea. No idea.
Oh, shit.
It was such a random thing. I just felt it in the moment. I never accepted friend request ever, and that was the one I accepted.
Aww.
And she had no idea who I was. No idea.
That's amazing.
Like, she had no idea about esports, so that was perfect. She didn't do it to just esports.
This is crazy to me because you're also both very good-looking people. So the fucking RNG there is like out of control.
I know.
It's like
God,
insane. Like, oh my God, 1 in a fucking billion, my dude. That's crazy.
Technically, our sample size, like of all the people that I know who play League of Legends, are all very good-looking people. So why would my assumption be that you see that chat, all of you, you're fucking gorgeous.
You're beautiful.
Man.
You run into someone in a solo queue game, they add you after. Maybe don't immediately hit on them. I don't know. I know what the conversation was like from there, but you know, like I'm just saying, there could be potential there, chat.
Yeah, you're all breathtaking.
Yeah, that person calling you an idiot and a feeder and an inter could be your wife or husband. You never know.
It's like kindergarten, you know, when the boy pushes you, he probably loves you.
Just a jungler runs into your lane. It's both buffs.
It's both buffs. He's the one. I know it. Ender never ganks my lane. Could be my second husband. Who knows?
And you're right, Ender. We did call you out.
Ender loves us all. I want to just ask, have you seen this movie, He's Not That Into You?
Yeah, it's a great movie. Our love burn.
Terrible,
Oh no, that's How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
I don't remember it all. I've seen it at some point though.
It's so
terrible.
So
why is it
bad.
terrible?
Romantic comedies are great. Just great trash.
But it wasn't
True.
romantic nor comedic.
Yamato's like, it was not soft and it was not funny.
It was just, I got baited in by the cast. Jennifer Aniston, Ben Affleck.
That's
the
a good
chick
cast.
That was high on heroin and Requiem for a Dream. I don't know her name.
I don't remember
Everyone
either.
knows that story.
Scarlett Johansson says chat.
Scarlett Johansson, what a bait. and the movie was terrible.
Would you like some good movie recommendations, especially like romantic comedies?
All right.
Okay.
Hit me.
Timer is one that not many people have seen.
I'll take that. I love some rom-coms.
Uh-huh.
Shrek 2.
Timer?
What? No,
That's the
Timer.
one. Shrek 2, greatest film of all time. Greatest
Holy
animated
Shrek
movie.
2. That's a love movie, no? Donkey Dragon.
Good movie. Yeah, good movie. Got
Donkey Dragon magic.
Chad, I'm not even memeing. I fucking love Shrek 2. Shrek
He
2 's my
cries every
shit.
time he watches it.
I do. You don't understand, chat. When Puss in Boots turned back and he says, "Today I repay my debt," I cry every time I watch that film. I'm a sucker for sacrifice. Probably because I would never do it. I would leave your asses out to dry in a heartbeat. So it gets me. Anyway, Frost, you have actual recommendations besides Timer? What else you got?
Like romantic comedies. I think
any-
Crazy Rich Asians, I think, is a really good
shit.
romantic comedy.
Crazy Stupid Love is the best one of all time.
Fuck,
in
what's
my
that?
opinion.
What's the
Crazy
Seen
Stupid
that?
Love? No, I haven't
Crazy
seen
Stupid
that.
Love. Holy shit, bro. That's so good. It's so
I'll watch
stacked.
it. I'm down.
Steve Carell, Ryan Gosling.
Have you not seen
What's her
Crazy
name?
Stupid Love? Emma Stone. Emma
Stone,
Stone.
yes.
Emma
That's
Stone.
fucking great cast. How have I not seen this movie?
Kevin Bacon.
What the fuck?
Mate.
This movie exists, right? You're not just saying names that I'll
bro.
probably
No, it's a really
enjoy.
good movie.
It's so good. So
Oh
good.
man. Puss in Boots? Hell yeah, Puss in Boots, iconic character. Antonio Banderas.
The
baby.
Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Yeah, that is also a good movie that not many people see. It's also filmed like all over the world. Gorgeous, especially if you want to go to Iceland.
Nice. Wait, we should probably end here.
Okay, I'm rating Yamato.
All right, everybody, you know the
Cool.
drill. Get your arms and legs inside the vehicle. Get ready. It is time to go. This has been Worlds After Dark episode something covering groups A and B in the final week. And remember, as soon as you get there, be sure to do a prime check. Shout out to our big donors today. We had a 10 subscriber donation earlier today, and I'm sorry. I'll double check on your name for next time. Yeah. Woo! Get in the bus. Get in the bus. Get in the fucking bus. I see some of you lingering around.
Get in the bus, guys. Put your seatbelts on.
Wait, that was a League
pull your arms
podcast?
in.
Yes, it was. And you're about to go watch whatever Yamato wants to show you, and that will also be League of
Nice.
Legends content.
Baldur's
Even if it's
Gate
him
3.
talking about movies. Baldur's Gate 3. Baldur's Gate 3, people.
No,
Go,
I'm
go,
kidding.
go,
We're gonna
go.
Talk about Worlds. Talk about Worlds.
Okay.
Maybe
I've-
Flex, Drakos.
I've shipped them.
Froskurinn, Nap.
I need
gonna-
I need
Nap.
nap. I need nap.
I'm going to take a break.
Nap
for a
and
little
snap
bit.
like the
I'm going
turtle
to take
you
a break.
ate.
I'm gonna take a
Okay.
break. But then maybe later tonight for sure.
Have fun. Enjoy your stop.